China's government has reportedly ordered its domestic airlines to stop accepting deliveries of Boeing jets and to halt purchases of aircraft.
U.S. tariffs may be putting air safety and the future of domestic aerospace at risk. Boeing, the crown jewel of American aviation, is shutting down key assembly lines. Not scaling back, not pausing, leaving. In a stunning move, the company announced it's shifting major aircraft production overseas.
Why?
Not just costs, policy. Trade barriers, once sold as a way to protect American workers, are now choking the very companies they aimed to save. Raw materials are harder to source, supply chains are snarled, and global customers are backing out. Retaliatory tariffs from China, Canada, and the EU hit hard. Boeing is now eyeing Canada, Germany, and Malaysia, places with more stable policies and clearer paths forward. This isn't just Boeing's problem, it's a wake-up call. If NASA and Pentagon's top contractor can't survive U.S. trade policy, who can? Are we protecting American industry or driving it out? The collapse didn't happen overnight. In April 2025, Trump slapped a 145% tariff on Chinese goods. Days later, under pressure, he eased it, but the damage was done. China struck back. On April 15th, Beijing ordered its airlines to cancel new Boeing orders and freeze U.S. aerospace contracts. China Southern, China Eastern, and Air China halted deliveries. Analysts estimate dozens of jets now sit in limbo, unsold. This isn't just lost business, it's being pushed out of a critical market. China was poised to become Boeing's biggest buyer. That future has gone dark. Meanwhile, tariffs raised costs at home. By 2025, aluminum and specialty steel prices jumped up to 40%, thanks to Trump-era duties. High-grade titanium, avionics, and wiring systems, sourced from Europe and Asia, were hit with layer after layer of tariffs. Airbus, operating under stable EU deals, kept prices in check while Boeing's costs soared. The company couldn't raise prices without losing customers, nor absorb the difference without slashing margins, dangerous during its ongoing recovery from the 737 MAX crisis. By May 2025, production delays mounted, layoffs loomed, and in June, Boeing pulled the plug on domestic assembly. Now, it's shifting investment to countries with reliable policies and skilled labor. The result? Around 40,000 U.S. jobs tied to Boeing's U.S. operations are in jeopardy. This goes beyond factory workers. It affects truckers, suppliers, cafeterias, entire communities in Washington and South Carolina. A policy meant to punish China is now crippling America's top aerospace exporter. Boeing is no longer making jets in America. That's not a warning, it's already happening. The question isn't whether tariffs protect U.S. industry. It's whether industry can survive them. Boeing's exit is more than a reaction to trade, it exposes a deeper flaw. U.S. aerospace depends on global supply chains. Made in America can't build a jetliner alone. Take titanium. Boeing long relied on Russia's VSMPO Avisma, the world's top aerospace-grade supplier. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, that partnership collapsed. Sanctions cut off supply, forcing Boeing to seek pricier and scarcer alternatives. According to AISO Consulting, titanium disruptions have spiked costs and production delays. And titanium's just the beginning. Boeing's avionics, flight computers, cockpit systems, come from firms like Thales, France, and Liebherr, Germany. These aren't off-the-shelf parts, they're custom-built, tightly regulated, and take years to certify. Replacing them with U.S. options isn't easy, it's a complex, costly reinvention. Even major parts of the 737 structure, like the vertical fin, are made overseas. That's not outsourcing, it's how global aircraft are built today. When Trump-era tariffs began in 2018 and expanded in 2025 to include a 145% tariff on Chinese imports, Boeing took a major hit. Material costs surged, parts grew scarce, and retaliatory trade measures dried up critical supply lines. By mid-2025, materials were up 40% since 2021, China had frozen orders, and Boeing faced soaring costs, falling sales, and mounting delays. The company had two choices: keep bleeding money or shift operations to more favorable countries. Boeing has since turned to Canada, Malaysia, and possibly Germany, nations with stable trade policies and skilled workforces. While there's no formal production move yet, growing international investments suggest long-term diversification. This isn't about cheap labor, it's survival. Building planes requires parts from 10 countries, and the U.S. lacks the infrastructure and workforce to go it alone. Boeing's shift highlights a hard truth. Industrial policy collided with industrial reality. By late 2024, Boeing announced it would cut 10% of its global workforce. As of January 17, 2025, more than 1,160 workers in Everett, Washington were laid off. North Charleston lost 220 more. But the impact reaches further. Truckers, engineers, janitors, caterers, and small factories in cities like St. Louis and Kansas City are also reeling from canceled contracts. Many businesses built around Boeing may not survive the summer. The ripple extends to R&D. For decades, Boeing partnered with top U.S. schools like MIT and Georgia Tech. Now, it's funding major research with Queen's University Belfast in Northern Ireland. This shift toward the UK, Germany, and Canada signals a move to countries with stable policies and strong public-private support. Back home, Boeing faces political chaos, export delays, and trade uncertainty. Once a booming market, China froze all new orders in April 2025 after new U.S. tariffs. Less than 2 months later, Chinese airlines began eyeing a 500-plane deal with Airbus, potentially locking Boeing out of one of its largest markets. This isn't a sudden collapse, it's death by 1,000 cuts. First layoffs, then cancelled contracts, then brain drain. Boeing's halt in production is no longer temporary, it's a warning sign. If a company this large, historic, and politically connected can't survive on U.S. soil, what hope is there for smaller manufacturers? Losing 40,000 potential jobs isn't just a statistic, it's a national wake-up call. Made in America rings hollow if America's biggest plane maker can't build at home. Boeing's retreat is more than a business decision. It's a blow to the nation's industrial heart. And it began abroad. On April 15, 2025, China suspended all new Boeing deliveries after sudden U.S. tariffs. What was once Boeing's billion-dollar growth engine is now frozen. Just weeks later, Bloomberg reported China is considering a massive Airbus order, locking in Europe's lead for the next decade. China and the EU are no longer just buyers, they're stepping into Boeing's turf. The ripple effects hit home fast. On November 10, 2024, Boeing announced it would cut 17,000 jobs, about 10% of its global workforce, due to mounting losses. The worst hit was Boeing's Everett plant near Seattle, where over 1,000 workers were laid off. Facilities in North Charleston and St. Louis are now bracing for more. Entire communities built around Boeing's Dreamliner line are watching paychecks vanish and property values fall. Suppliers are struggling too, with cancelled orders forcing many to lay off workers or shut down. Skilled labor is leaving, and Boeing's old academic ties are losing ground to faster-moving labs in Canada and Europe. The signal to U.S. engineers is clear. The future of aerospace might be elsewhere. Ironically, this shift stems from protectionist trade policies. Tariffs meant to help U.S. manufacturers backfired, raising material costs and triggering retaliation. Boeing will still build planes, but not necessarily in America. If a century-old aerospace icon can't stay afloat under these rules, what hope do smaller firms have? To survive, Boeing is diversifying globally. With trade policy in flux at home, the company is putting down roots where rules are stable and incentives flow. On May 28, 2025, Boeing invested $17.5 million Canadian dollars in 2 sustainable fuel projects in British Columbia and Quebec. In return, Ottawa offered R&D credits and a guaranteed military contract. Many see this not just as a project, but as the start of a bigger shift north. Germany is next. In May 2024, Boeing expanded its North Rhine-Westphalia hub, its third in the region. With tariff-free access and strong engineering talent, Berlin sweetened the deal with export financing. In Southeast Asia, Boeing secured its biggest Malaysia Airlines deal in a decade, 37 new 737 MAX jets. That sale came with tax holidays and fast-tracked approvals for a maintenance hub near Selangor, where wages are a fraction of U.S. levels. India is also key. Long before current tariff battles, Boeing teamed with Tata in Hyderabad to build 737 vertical fins. The plant shipped its first unit in February 2023 and now aims for 10 sets a month, output once planned for Wichita. India offers stability, cheap power, and strong government support. Critics call this retreat, but Boeing sees it as a hedge. Each new site reduces risk. If China stops buying, another region can fill the gap. These moves also earn political favor abroad, giving foreign carriers more reason to stay with Boeing instead of switching to Airbus. This isn't about abandoning the US, it's about staying competitive in a global market where slogans don't pay bills and consistency trumps patriotism. The hard truth: tariffs haven't protected American industry, they've pushed it out. Where does it end? Maybe with a new trade deal. Maybe with more companies moving offshore. One thing's clear: if the tariff game continues, today's losses will become tomorrow's normal. Is this sacrifice worth it? Ask Boeing. Its assembly lines have already answered, and they're no longer in America.